It's showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
Happy 4th of July, everybody.
Is it happy?
Oh, yeah.
Is it happy this year?
Happy. Okay. All right. Or wait, who can do a good Bill Pullman impersonation? And this shall be our Independence Day. Yes.
And thank you for taking time on your 4th of July to hang out with us here on set, Matt.
Yes, because I'm sure, well, anybody that's a Hamilton fan has probably already watched it multiple times because that drops on yesterday on the 3rd, but Film Board's going to be doing that this weekend. So everybody that hasn't had a chance to check that out, and then listen for the Film Board discussion on the Disney Plus Hamilton.
Just watch the intermission, pause it, and then listen to this, and then go back in.
That's it. That's literally what Lin-Manuel Miranda said. He said 1 minute, and then you can pause it and make it as long as you want.
Long as you...
So. You can stand in line for your own bathroom. Yes. It's fine. Get that real New York experience.
Exactly.
Pay $50 to have some wine delivered.
Yeah. Now I heard, I haven't been in Disney Plus. Well, it hasn't. I haven't had a chance to dig around, but I heard there's also like behind the scenes stuff that they're gonna that's there as well.
I'm
super excited.
The documentary.
Yes, so that's a big thing that Disney's been doing, because I watched The Mandalorian and they had their whole behind the scenes thing. Kyle, I know you and watched. Oh, JJ,
the Disney Gallery, that was amazing.
Yes, because I'd heard about the volume, but actually seeing that at work, right? Because I don't know how many episodes I'd watched, and I thought, wow, like it was the Prison Break one where I thought, wow, they really replicated like the look of and I'm like, oh well, half this isn't even there. Right.
And I see it in action, and I still don't believe it. Like I cannot see where the line is. It's really amazing.
Amazing. And then for all the Frozen 2 fans, I guess there's a whole big thing on the making of Frozen 2.
Have either of you guys watched that?
I've seen the movie, but not the making.
I have. And I recommend anybody who's an animation fan to watch it, because they've never gone to see it before. But what shocked me about it was how unbelievably slapdash it appears that their animation process is.
That's surprising.
I mean, like obviously everybody is are amazingly talented. They're amazingly hard workers, and you see stuff. But like they start the documentary about, I think, 9 months before the movie premieres. They don't have an ending.
Oh wow!
They're still figuring it out, and so they show this process of them. Like, they get an animator, they say, "Here's the sequence. You got to go. Have Olaf go from here and do this and do that." And they go, "Great!" And the animator will spend a month working on it, and they'll come back and go, "Yeah, we cut that, so it's gone." So it's like, I watch this, I'm like, this is the most wasteful process I've ever seen to make a movie.
I'd like to say that surprises me, but with Frozen 2, it does not surprise me. So.
But it comes together in the end, and they all, obviously it pulls together. But it just amazes me how wasteful that process is. I mean, they show like reams of paper of like, oh, this was a whole sequence got deleted, gone, just shred it, it's gone. Like, if you look at an animation studio of like Lakia, who did Coraline and stuff, their script has to be tight and locked before day one of photography.
Oh, they would lose so much money.
Why did Disney just all right up until the last minute is just like winging it? Like, nah, how about this? How about this? How about this? How about this? I guess when you're made $1 billion, you can do that, but it just seems like you are wasting so many people's time. Yes. So many hardworking animators are working 14-hour days because you guys can't get your schedule together. I will tell you,
my 9 to 5 feels a lot like that too, so it's not surprising to me.
Right? But you're not working for Disney. You think that they, of all people, would have a more efficient system.
I mean, I think that's a case of a release date got fixed and they had to work towards that, because Pixar's notorious for working through and then scrapping a movie because the story didn't work together, or completely overhauling something before it gets released. And because they talk about that in the Jon Favreau talks about that, of how much they work through with previs and all that. And all those directors said on Mandalorian, when they showed up to shoot, they had everything that they needed. And Taika Waititi talks about the fact that when you're doing pickups, it's like what you need to get. It's really specific, but when you're not as structured, you get that shot of like, let's get that shot of that water glass and we'll just let it hang there for a while because we might need that for something. He said this was the opposite of everybody knew what they needed. I think that's the difference between when you don't have a fixed release date, you have that. But I think with something like high stakes as Frozen 2, we've got to get it out this date. So then all of a sudden you find yourself behind the 8 ball and they are scrambling. They're throwing everything.
They're just animating coverage, right? That's the idea.
Right, yes.
Like they're animating coverage.
Exactly.
For the whole shot,
we might need this. Yes.
they're even. I mean, like up to like 4 months before the movie has to be locked, they're recording new songs.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Again, I'd like to say that
shocking.
surprises me for Frozen 2, but not for Frozen 2.
No, but it's all about, the box office drives those things of that. And I think I did not enjoy Frozen 2 as much, but my kids are at an entirely different age. And so it was an entirely different situation. But, I'm going to segue into Kyle's first article that he threw in here, which is about box office driving things. And Kyle, tell us about this $0 budget movie that was actually the #1 movie in the country. What is this? How did they pull this off? What are you talking about?
It's a great story of just about guys who kind of game the system, but it was actually a really clever way to do it. Right now where everything is shut down, there's no new movies coming out. There's nothing going on, and so these guys had in isolation had basically shot a movie. It's kind of like a Zoom version of Unfriended. It's called Unfriended. It's a really no budget horror movie. And they thought, well, if there's no one is actually, and it's like right now, if we rented out a theater and sold tickets for it, theoretically, we would be the highest grossing film in the country. And so that's what they did. They rented out a theater, sold tickets to their friends. And, they I think they made like maybe $25,000 and shot to #1 at the box office because there was no competition.
Well, they can frame the Variety article that says that. And then that's what they have.
Exactly.
Yes, that's what they have, that notoriety for having the #1 film, and it cost them $0 to make, which is amazing. But it speaks to ingenuity, innovation, and just how sort of broken some of these systems are when it comes to things like that. I think the virus, this outbreak has shown that we've propped up systems that are just there by the fact that they've always been there. And so it's like, what does it mean to be #1? It doesn't really mean anything. I still get the Yelp pages show up to my house every once in a while. I'm like, who's advertising in this thing? Who's thinking that somebody's going to be like, I need to find something and let me get that book out and open it up and look to car parts. But there's people that still, advertisers are there because it's always worked that way. And I think, the #1, it's something people like to tout, but, maybe they'll realize it doesn't really mean anything because, people, there's so many different formats and ways that they're going to be able to spend their money. I mean, there's so many great examples of a film that didn't do well at the box office, like Scott Pilgrim, a notorious disaster that is now just heralded as a great film and has a huge following. And
that's they have an anniversary right now. They're having a 10-year anniversary.
Yes, that's coming
up.
I
believe they're actually getting together and doing a script reading of that too.
I know that, Edgar Wright had talked about wanting to get it back in theaters for the 10th anniversary. So, because that's one that so many people would love to see, like myself, on the big screen, because I missed out on that opportunity.
That has a special place in my heart because that actually was when I moved to Arizona 10 years ago. Last month, that was the first movie I saw when I moved out here. And I was super excited. I walked to the theater and it was just me and my wife on a Friday 7:00 show. And I'm like, oh,
private showing. That's great.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just realized, this is not going to go well for their box office.
All right. So I'm not.
Oh, and that movie is called Unsubscribed.
Unsubscribed is okay.
Sure.
Unsubscribed. So be able to track that one down, put that on your watch list when you're looking for something to see. You can say, hey, I'm looking for a movie that did really well at the box office. There you go. All right. I'm not one that likes to tread into the rumor mill and all that. This is something that I think Pete leans into a little bit more. He's always one that's fond of delving into rumors, particularly when it was dealing with Marvel. He would love, there would be leaks or rumors about what was going on. And so when I saw this rumor about the Star Wars franchise, I thought, I don't know. And people will say, well, this person's been accurate, before, but there is supposedly a rumor that there is now a battle within Lucasfilm regarding whether episodes 7, 8, and 9, so the most recent trilogy, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, is actually going to be removed from the Star Wars canon. So
who controls the canon?
Lucasfilm, because this was part of. Well, they have, and Andy may be able to speak more to this because I know he watched all the Clone Wars, all that. But there were so many when Disney acquired it. There were so many different fringe properties. They had to define canon because there was like the Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, all of this. So there's a formal canon that Lucasfilm has defined.
Yeah.
Yes,
everything that didn't fit into that goes into what's called Star Wars Legends. So like everything, all the Zahn novels, all of that stuff gets shunted off the side, and then they basically went through and cherry picked and said, "This is in, this is in, this is in," and then published a list. So I guess
Zahn isn't canon.
No, it's not canon. Except oddly, Thrawn is because he's a part of Rebels, and Rebels is a part of canon.
But that's a good point, right? So if this rumor were to be true, how would they eliminate the pieces of the puzzle that are so clearly related to canon?
An excellent question. And that's why I think this is total BS. Because they had this same rumor came out right when Disney bought Star Wars. But what they said is they're going to wipe away the prequels. They're making the prequels. They're cutting them out. They're going to redo them all from scratch. All stuff, and it's like, okay, I've heard this before. I guess I'm old enough that I'm like, I'm hearing the same rumors again. You're just changing the names.
Yes.
So they're going to redo it. If they really want to do movies with the original cast, you can. Right. There's a huge gap. You could just have Mark Hamill shave, and he's good to go.
Yes, but it has to do with all this stuff with the Emperor and something called the Veil of the Force and all of this, and how he used these tools of the Force, and that's how he sort of, as he got thrown down in Jedi, he opened this portal to the Veil of the Force and created this other
the quantum realm
entity.
He opened a
pretty much.
I get it.
Yes.
So all of Rise of Skywalker is just like Endgame. It's what they did. Yes. I am all the Jedi. I get it. No.
Yes. Yeah. So he went through a portal.
So Rey will use a time machine to travel back in time.
Yes.
To meet herself on Jakku.
No, it's the Veil of the Force. The Veil. The
lingo
is really important.
She'll use the Veil Stone.
Right.
No, wait.
So basically, the idea is that this veil of mirrors, he used it, and he created a second set of mirrors that allowed him to escape to where he plotted, the rise of the Empire, in the last trilogy here. And so basically, they're going to say that something happened that prevented him from entering the veil, which then closes everything off, and he dies as intended as Return of the Jedi. These other movies are part of that separate thing in Legends, and they can now do something else as other sequels.
The interesting thing about this is, like, is there a time period? So you think about, like, the Hall of Fame, right? The Hall of Fame in a sports, they have, in baseball, for example, they have a number of years where they're available to be voted in, and then if they miss that, if they don't get voted in within that allotted period of time, then they're no longer Hall of Fame material. So does the canon become this? Like, you can be voted in or out within a certain amount of time of your release, but if you don't make it, then we're going to rewrite. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I don't know.
It's like they'll do like a character draft where like a character goes on screen. Like, here's Ponda Baba. Right. Is he in or is he out?
And it's just one of these things where I thought, okay, first it was The Last Jedi, then it was, now this whole thing, and they just basically people aren't happy with it, and they want to just scrap it and say, forget it, it doesn't count. And I'm like, well. That's you don't, as I always say, you don't have to watch those movies. You don't have to watch them, and you can have your own little headcanon of what you want to happen. That's right. So, like there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies, and there's only 1 Highlander movie. Headcanon. Yes,
I like it.
I agree with you 100% on those.
I like it.
Right there with you. Yes.
Right. And I actually saw an article a ways back that said movies that get a lot better if you assume they take place in the Matrix. And a couple of them I was like,
that idea.
Yes, right. That could work. Next up, I want to talk about Aaron Sorkin and his thing that Netflix is grabbing, because I'm an Aaron Sorkin fan, but I was really intrigued by this because it's a story that this is what I'm not a history person, and growing up in Chicago, this is one of these things when as I'm discussing things with my kids, we talk about what's current history, what's like near history, and when it's far enough away that you actually get to talk about it. So for me, growing up in Chicago in the 80s, Trial of the Chicago 7 was still too fresh in everybody's memory. It wasn't something that was taught. It wasn't talked about. It wasn't discussed. It wasn't until I was actually in college, it was learning about all the, everything going on in Chicago during the Democratic Convention. He was in art school at the time. And so he had some interesting stories about, how scary it was, which then made me realize why my mother did not like me driving to downtown Chicago, because in her recent memory, there was crazy stuff that was going on with the police. But Aaron Sorkin is doing this Trial of the Chicago 7 that I guess now Netflix is going to be picking up. So I am very much intrigued to see what happens with this with distribution. Again, is this one that would have been a theatrical release, but due to everything going on, Netflix has had the opportunity to snap it up? I'm kind of curious, but
it's interesting that this is his second directorial work too, after Molly's Game,
which we covered on the film board. Yes, we covered that one on the film board.
Yeah. Were you a fan of that? Did you guys see Molly's Game?
Yes, we were part of that film board.
What do you think of Sorkin as a director?
It was okay. For me, it wasn't that. I mean, I will say the film board really loved it, and in general, everyone voted it up. For me, it wasn't. It wasn't super powerful, and I usually like things to be a little bit more moving. And he didn't move me with his direction. I love the script. I love the concept. I think it's a fine movie, but it's not like one of my favorites. So I don't really see his style in direction per se. I definitely trust him with something like this though, and I'll be excited to watch it to see what comes out of it.
Yeah, subject matter wise, you can see why he picked this. I mean, digging into all the things he likes of history and trials. Yes. I mean, obviously going back to Few Good Men.
Yes, exactly.
Like this is right in his wheelhouse.
Yes, and an amazing cast. You got Eddie Redmayne, you got Tom Hayden, Sacha Baron Cohen as Abby Hoffman, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who has been pretty absent from the screen as far as I can. I know he's got that one that's on Amazon Prime where he's the pilot of the plane, but it seems like a lifetime since I've seen him. I guess it was Snowden was the last thing that I can remember. And that was what, 4 or 5 years ago, perhaps.
Sounds right.
Yeah. So but will as JJ said, I don't think there's a lot of style to his, the way he directs, but for me, it's really about as long as how he's directing it doesn't get in the way of the story being told, because I know he knows how to tell the story. I think as long as he doesn't do anything that's too distracting or just so unsettling or disruptive to my enjoying the story, I will be all on board for what he's going to do with this story coming to Netflix. Looks like sometime this fall. So
if theaters are open, then maybe he can get an Oscar nod if they can get into theaters.
They're going to cancel the Oscars this year. I totally think they are. I mean, in 2 weeks ago on SatMat, we talked about them moving it back to April, but there's no way.
Yeah, at this point, what's the point?
I just can't. I don't have a lot of faith in that date.
This gets back to things have to be in theaters to be award worthy and all of that, and so we've got all this artifice that's starting to come crumbling down again because but there are. But we talked about The Five Bloods on the film board on Netflix. Not as much, I will agree, not as much as we would have if theaters were open, but still there are clearly quality films that are still being released. Hopefully, we have dates and My question is, how is it going to prevent it's? How should I say? How does this not turn into drinking from the fire hose? Right? I mean, because there's such a backlog of things. So to me, there are films that
I think Wonder Woman 1984 is going to go directly up against Black Widow at some point.
Oh, it's going to be.
Oh, wow. How are they going to organize that? They can't.
Right? They can't. And it's going to. I think it's accelerating what has happened because the smaller, just straight dramas, the theater, it's becoming about the theatrical experience. What's the big spectacle on the screen that I'm in my big recliner with Dolby Atmos sound and a huge screen or in 3D? That's the spectacle. Something that's a more character-based drama doesn't necessarily need to be on the big screen. It's something that everybody's got a nice setup at home that they can watch those. And to me, that's where your direct to video, purchase or rentals. Something like, the spring that was released was Emma. Wasn't going to do well in theaters. Just shoot that straight out to home, and the people that want to see it will see it there. And there's no reason to try to take up a theater that's going to hold hundreds of people to have 5 people sit there and watch it. So I think maybe studios will start thinking about, yes, it's important to have Wonder Woman. It's important to have, Black Widow or Tenet on the big screen. What are those smaller films that have just struggled in the theaters? Just give up on that and say, no, we're going to market those towards the direct home audience to say, here, you get this, at home. Bundle something
with the success of stuff like The Invisible Man and The Hunt on direct-to-video. Maybe this could be the return of the mid-budget film.
Yes, that would be nice.
That's been for the last 20 years or whatever. There's been this gap because you've got your $200 million films, you've got your $5 million films, and there's nothing in the middle. So give a decent director $30 million. And then if you can, do the math to see if you can get the return on that, either by Netflix writing you a big check or by doing this direct-to-video market, and a direct-to-video 2.0.
Right with that.
Or there's the possibility, JJ, as you have shared, that we could always just go back to the drive-in, right?
Well, now 2 weeks ago, that's what I shared a thing about the drive-in too, about how there's going to be this huge resurgence. Yeah. I'm still hooked on it. I don't have we've been struggling to figure out plans for today, for the 4th of July. And we're going to go to a drive-in. There's a drive-in here in suburban Oregon. It's the double feature, traditional double feature. They're limiting, the cars to about half of what can come in. And we're going to see The Force Awakens. The second feature is Deadpool, which my kids would love, but no, not ready to go through that yet. I mean, give me 10 years and we'll try it.
Yes,
but so the article that I put up today was that Walmart is actually announcing that they're going to turn 160 of their parking lots nationwide into drive-in theaters in August, and it's pretty wild. It's an interesting concept. I am very excited to go see our drive-in tonight, and I think this could be a really neat concept. The news stories from one place, but they actually have a particular site for Walmart that's being people in. It's walmartdrive-in.com, and right now it's just a coming soon page and talking about it, but they're talking about August, and they're going to put socially distanced drive-in events and all this stuff. So I don't know.
I wonder what kind of movies they're going to show.
It's Walmart. It's going to be the family-friendly stuff, and that's make it a family
experience. But even family don't like. Are we talking about Trolls World Tour? Sure. Are we talking about like Lion King from last year? I mean, like, what kind of distribution deals does Walmart have to land to make this happen? I mean, we all remember the story of the parent who bought Lion King on DVD and showed it at the school for a fundraiser and got sued by Disney. Yes. So Walmart's got to sign those contracts.
Yes, I'm sure it's Walmart. They've got the ability to. I mean, Walmart owns Vudu, the streaming service. So I mean,
not anymore.
Really? Not anymore.
They just sold it to Fandango.
Really? Oh, did they?
That's interesting.
Wow. Okay.
I just got an email about it today.
Oh, wow.
Well, Vudu is my preferred service, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. But at least, I mean, they have a foot in that arena, or they did through Vudu. So they've got some division that's got some connections there. So I'm figuring it'll be interesting if it's limited to a particular studio or if it's multiple studios and how they do this, or if they're just going to basically do it as older films, and they'll negotiate licensing for showing it this many times on these screens. But I mean, my daughters have gone to the drive-ins out here in Arizona because I heard Andy talking about it, he didn't know, and my teenagers have gone because they did. It's the whole double feature, and it's because then they can be teens without disrupting everybody around them. They can be in the car. Yeah. They can be loud. They can be boisterous, obnoxious, right, and all of that.
Texting through the whole movie.
Yes, and they're not bothering anybody. It's great for them. And I love this idea because it is. I mean, it's a different experience because you're not taking the old speaker and just hanging it out, on the side of the door like in the old days. Right. But they have this whole setup where you can place your order for snacks and whatever, and as you come in, they've got curbside delivery for whatever you've ordered for your snacks, so that this there you go.
Let's face it, Walmart has the land.
Yes, they do. They've got the land. So that's
one of the folks out there that can do it.
Another, making the old things new again, bringing the drive-ins back,
the Roaring 20s
to us. Yes, exactly. It is the Roaring 20s. That is true. The 2020s. I didn't quite think of it that way. We do want to talk about the passing of Carl Reiner.
Buongiorno. Hey, would you go up a little closer, please? Evangelical. Hey, ponte un peccato, ne villa poppiare, ne vituare, no, the second half of the smartest brothers comedy, modest. Hey, Johnny, I pontuni la parnovelna, buongiorno, rigarde. Perfetto, no? Non perfetto. E pontuli la mozzumilla palaccio bella, con un matti venore. Perfetto. E lo giuvonge la perfetto. Buongiorno nose, a little bit of nose job, okay? But perfetto, monce perfetto. E buongiorno the skin, va un nice close shave. Buongiorno Maria torpello vidore. E figo, the build, mangiano vero, col panno, and the legs are beautiful, believe me, I've seen it. Non mangiare vero. Bene faccione via. Perfetto, sì, perfetto. Non perfetto. Don Giulio Barco di Vindo, Ripiardo. Giovanni, the giorno do, Sofia, Giovanni. Buongiorno.
Hello.
Sì? Non perfetto. E buono signor, finor mi va. Sì, signor. E buongiorno your heart trouble? No. E buongiorno no heart trouble. She, a bad breath.
It was something that, came up this week, and I, was just reading it. I remember watching the Dick Van Dyke Show on, in syndication when I was little.
Yep.
And
Nick at Night.
Yeah. Oh, no, even before that, when I was like tiny, like WGN, growing up, it was always on. And then, as an adult, seeing him in like Ocean's 11 and thinking, the span of time and media and everything that he's been involved in, and just what a important figure he is in entertainment. I mean, working with, Mel Brooks, Sid Caesar. I mean, he's a monument to, quality comedy in America. And it's a great, great loss. So I just wanted to
any one of the aspects of his career, people would be lucky to have.
Yes.
I mean, just starting off from your show of shows.
Yes.
I mean, like as a writer, just like if I ever got to time travel, I would want to go back to that just to be in the room with all of those guys. And then creating one of the greatest sitcoms of all time, directing some of the funniest movies of all time, and then continuing, even at 90, he was still writing.
Yes.
Like he was like every day getting up and writing books. Like he's like in the last 10 years, he's published like 5 books. Like I'm in my 40s and I don't have that kind of energy. And he's in his 90s. I mean,
he has to put it out.
Yes.
He was nonstop right to the end.
Yes, he was. So yes, a great, great loss in the world of entertainment and comedy. Trailers. Okay, we're things are picking up a little bit. It's not quite the doldrums that we had before, and I was lucky enough to come across a trailer, and I had no idea this was in the works, and it's not anything I was looking for, but I had just recently watched End of Watch with Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena, and it had been one that had been in my Netflix queue forever, and I'm like, I will get around to watching this. And I watched it, and I had a great time with it. And I'm like, who's directing this again? Oh, wait, I know this name, David Ayer, right? And I'm looking at his list. I'm like, Fury. We talked about that on the film board. Had movie. A great time. Loved that movie. And I thought, okay. And then I saw this, The Tax Collector, and I thought, yes, he's creating his own like cinematic LA universe of crime.
Yes.
Yes. And I love his sort of sci-fi fantasy version that he did for Netflix called Bright. I know some people didn't quite like that, mix of things, but for me, it worked. And so he's got a new one called The Tax Collector. And I think he's one of these writers and directors that just people want an opportunity to work with him, because he doesn't always work with the same people, but he always gets interesting people involved in his movies. And I would have never thought that Shia LaBeouf would be like the crime lord hitman. He's just
he looks great in the trailer, though.
He does. He fits it. There's a sinister side to him in this, and it's one that just I know the world from David's other work that this is taking place in, and if he delivers what he's done in his other films, I'm looking forward to this. Supposedly coming to theaters August 7th. I don't think that's going to happen. They're being optimistic, but at least sometime this fall. This is one that I would definitely show up to see in the theaters, because it's just it is dark, it is gritty and violent, but I feel like he's a competent storyteller, and I trust him with this one. What did you guys think of this one?
Well, it's not the right story for me, but that being said, so as I'm going through it, I'm like, wow, this is super intense. I don't know if I want to do this, but then it's really well. I mean, the trailer is really well curated, and the story is interesting to me enough that it's something that I don't know that I would see it in the big screen. It's something that I would definitely be interested in seeing later on as they release it to small screens. So I was happy that you shared it, because I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah. I had also never heard of it until you put it out there, and seeing Shia LaBeouf is a badass.
Right.
I would not have anticipated that, but yeah, David Ayer seems to be interested in morally ambivalent dudes with guns.
Yes. That covers it.
That's the genre he seems to be going for.
And it's worked well for him so far. And I think as long as he has stories, like I said, as long as he's got stories to tell there that work, I think he's got a solid career in that, despite little stumbles like getting involved in comic book movies. But we won't speak of such things and just focus on other things.
Release the Ayer cut.
Yeah, no, don't. Doesn't need to happen.
Is it Ayer or Ayer? I'm sorry,
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, on the other end of the spectrum, Kyle, what have you brought us?
Yeah. Once again, the thing that's interesting to me about all three of these trailers is until I saw these trailers, I had no idea any of these movies existed.
Yes.
Cool.
So that was fun, because it was like a fresh thing. I had no preconceived notions. So much so that even for my trailer, which is called Palm Springs, I asked my wife when it comes out if she would watch it without ever having watched the trailer. Because as much as I really like this trailer, it got me to one of the other things. I wish it wouldn't give away so much.
Yeah, right. Gives away a lot.
Yeah. So it's Andy Samberg. And then, I forgot the actress's name, but she's from How I Met Your Mother. She was the mother in the last season. But she basically they go to a wedding at Palm Springs, and it turns out that Andy Samberg is caught in a time loop at this wedding, and then she somehow gets caught in the time loop as well. So antics ensue as they cannot figure out how to escape this thing, and they go through the same kind of stuff. Now, obviously, the easy comparison is Groundhog Day, but I'm a firm believer in a good idea is a good idea is a good idea. And I like seeing variations on a theme. Like, I remember when Raiders of the Lost Ark came out, everybody went, whoop, don't touch any 1920s action movies because it's done. It's finished. Spielberg, but it's like, then we got The Mummy in 99, and that's the same kind of thing. So why did it take that long? So I think I like seeing fresh takes on ideas we've seen before. So I'm all for it. I can't wait to see it. It's on Hulu.
So I have a couple questions. So I saw Groundhog Day late. It was a gap movie for me. I watched it during quarantine because I had never seen it before. Okay. And while I admit, Bill Murray's genius, it really didn't hit me the way that so many people it matters to so many people. Looking at this movie, I think it looks funny. I think it looks like a more over the top version of Groundhog Day, and I'm kind of excited for that to see, this idea that's been trod, how the sausage gets made in this idea, the mythology, exploring the mythology further and taking it more extreme. That seems funny to me, so I'm excited about that. I love Andy Samberg. I love J.K. Simmons, so that he could bring me out to anything. Yeah. The thing that makes me nervous about it, though, is number one, talking about that you see so much in the trailer, but also that it was originally released in January of this year, and then now it's getting this other release. So that's kind of the weird thing. I'm like, why haven't we done anything more with this? I don't have Hulu.
I didn't dig into it,
so I don't know how I'm going to catch it, but I will. And they also say it's Hulu and a drive-in release, so little timely considering what we were talking about. So, and I also have lived in Palm Springs, so that might affect my feelings about the movie too.
I've driven through that many times. So
6 months, 6 months of my life.
I'm guessing that maybe it was. Yeah. You probably saw the Matrix playing there.
I did that in LA, but yeah.
I imagine maybe they had it as like it got bought by Hulu at a film festival.
It must have.
They showed it at Sundance.
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's probably then the Hulu people showed up with their checkbook.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that, Andy Samberg brings to this is, and it being rated R, you can tread into territory that a PG, Groundhog Day can't.
Right.
You can go far more extremes, and just, I think, because people are familiar with the conceit now, you can play around with that. You can do ridiculous things like, oh, there's a bomb in the cake. I happen to be a bomb disposal guy. You can go, with Bill Murray, it was like, I'm going to order everything on the menu and eat it. And it's like, oh, that's so, ridiculous that somebody would do that. That's so familiar. So now we have to up the stakes. And I think this is the perfect vehicle for that, because it is taking it to a more ridiculous extreme. The R rating allows them to just, get into days of just sitting around, just getting, drunk and, taking drugs and flying to wherever. Yes, it's going to be ridiculous, stupid fun. And I'm very much looking forward to it. It's the perfect time to revisit the genre and sort of reinvent it with a new twist for 2020.
Love it.
JJ, you picked the other trailer that I almost went with.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't. This one is right up my alley. It's Respect, the Aretha Franklin story, set to release on Christmas Day, which I think is actually kind of a perfect thing for this movie. Aretha being played by Jennifer Hudson. Jennifer Hudson's got such an interesting career. Watched her on American Idol. Loved everything she's done on screen, and I think she's kind of like the only right person to pick for this. I'm a major Aretha Franklin fan. I recently went. One of my first ventures out with quarantine was to go buy a bunch of vinyl, and I wanted to get all of my favorite Aretha Franklin songs on one vinyl set, and I couldn't find, there were so many different ones that I couldn't find something that covered all the bases. I ended up with like 5 albums in my hand, and I couldn't pull myself to buy any one of them because I would have sacrificed 1 or 2 songs because I chose one. So I'm really excited for it. It looks like a pretty moving and powerful story, so I'm excited for that. I think this is just a teaser trailer, but it's worth it. Yeah, I think if you like Aretha, if you like her music, this is going to be a great one.
Well, according to IMDb trivia, Aretha Franklin herself handpicked Jennifer Hudson for this role, which I think is, there's no doubt. I mean, you couldn't have anybody else. I want to say it was maybe a year and a half ago. The concert film, Amazing Grace, that had been in the vaults for since whenever 2018 something
came out in 2018.
Yep. So it's been in the vaults for whatever 30-40 years. Of the 2 concert performances she did, there was issue with sound syncing and all of that, so they finally released it. It's available on Hulu. It's amazing to see this concert performance in a church, and there's an amazing shot where it's just panning the crowd, and you see in the standing room in the back, Mick Jagger just sort of like bopping along, and it's like, what?
Right.
He shows up. He shows up to see Aretha sing, and it's an amazing performance. So if you do have Hulu and you can't wait for Respect in December, just fill in with the little Amazing Grace on Hulu. It's an amazing concert film. The album had come out whenever back in the 70s and was like one of the top selling albums, but people just couldn't see the film because of the technical issues. But they've digitally figured out how to do it, and it's great performances. And little interesting point, the one of the musicians in the band, I think he plays the keyboards or something. The pastor mentions his name is actually Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton.
Timely.
We bring it back round again.
Very nice.
Okay. So Christmas, I get everybody's counting on being able to, that's that Oscar contender spot.
Yeah, it's going to be up against Wonder Woman 1984 and Black Widow.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be a weird Christmas, guys.
Never bet against Aretha.
There you go. That's right.
But there's a trifecta of female empowerment.
I know.
Though.
I love it.
Yes.
So I'm all for that.
Exactly.
Also, when I was bopping around Spotify, I discovered an album, a quote unquote new album from Aretha Franklin, which I had never heard of before. So there's a group called the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, and they're doing this thing where they're taking the original tracks of musicians with permission. And they're stripping out everything except their vocals and then doing a full orchestral score.
Love it.
Oh, wow.
So she has an album called A Brand New Me, and it's her, the original vocals, singing along with a fully backed orchestra.
Wow.
They've done it with a couple different artists. It's really, really impressive. So
Interesting.
if you sort of want to hear some Aretha Franklin movie in a way you've never heard before, I would highly recommend checking that out.
Brand New Me.
It's pretty
I love
cool.
It.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So let's do some IMDb game here, and
Ooh. I've never played this before. This
Okay.
would be fun.
So the rules of the game are, well, I guess the basics are when you go and look up somebody on IMDb and their listing, it'll have like known for, and it lists 4 things. And the game of it is, it's not always the most obvious things that you would think that they would be known for, but according to whatever IMDb algorithm pulls together, it will say known for and lists 4 things. So the object of the game is, if I give you a celebrity name, you try to guess what the 4 films that IMDb is going to put as known for this celebrity.
And one slot is what Irwin watched last, right?
It is something like that. I think Tommy said it's Steve, whatever Steve watched last, and he didn't mean me.
And then it was Kyle.
He meant Minecraft Steve, but yes.
Minecraft Steve, yes, exactly.
All right, so Justin and I are working together on this, right?
Yes.
I love it.
I'm
Two of us are
glad.
coming up with the
I think
4.
they've proposed competition before, but I prefer to collude.
It's much better.
It's us versus Steve.
It's you. It's you.
It's us versus the algorithm. Really.
It is you. Okay, so let's start with we'll start with my trailer. We'll start with good old Shia LaBeouf.
Okay,
Mr.
Shia
LaBeouf.
Okay.
So what is he going to be known for? What do you?
I'm gonna say Holes.
Holes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say.
I guess just because
I was gonna say Disturbia, right?
Oh, Disturbia. That's a good
and
one.
then isn't he in the Transformers?
He is.
So those are the 2 that I'd offer.
Okay, so Transformers. Do you think Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
I don't think it'll show up on the algorithm, but I think that's
no.
But
Okay.
I mean, I get why, right? I get why that might pop up, but I don't think so.
Yeah, just because popular.
What else?
But yeah, I think we'll say first Transformers movie.
Okay.
Even though that's not the one that made the most money.
Right, okay.
That's
You've got
the best
Transformers, and then you said this.
And once again, headcanon, there was only one Transformers movie, and then Bumblebee. That was it. Just those 2.
And then you said what? You said Disturbia,
and then Holes. I didn't think about
Holes.
Okay.
Transformers, and then what would the last one be? The Even Stevens movie.
Oh, good Lord. Okay. I'll give you a clue.
You know what? I'm gonna do the Irwin pick.
Okay.
The throw other. I'm gonna say Eagle Eye.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Let's do
wow.
that. I like it.
I just watched that movie again. It still holds up.
Okay.
Okay.
Those are our 4.
Yeah, and you're shooting 25% there. So you got.
Oh, doesn't surprise me.
So
What did we do?
So you got Transformers.
Okay.
Okay. 2 of the other.
Please don't tell me it's 4 Transformers.
No. Because 2 of them. This is, I maybe speaks to the algorithm, but 2 of the films are from 2019. His 2 most recent films, Honey Boy and The Peanut Butter Falcon.
Peanut Butter Falcon.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Wow.
That makes real sense.
Yeah, well, I guess
So then the last one. We just talked about this when we were talking about the trailer. We talked about it on the film board. How could you forget that he was in Fury, JJ?
I forgot that.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
That's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like he's not known
fifth
for
lead
that.
in that, right?
That's so weird to say
he's
that
not.
he's known for Fury. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's a great film.
He was just lucky to be in the tank.
Yes,
Come on.
I'm glad it's directing people to see that movie, because if they haven't, they're going to have a great time with that.
Right.
But yes, it is skewed heavily with having 2 films from 2019 was a surprise to me that they would skew
John
that way.
Bernthal's in Fury too, right?
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Such a good movie.
I need to watch.
I wrote
that
a blog
again.
post about it. It blew my mind.
Okay. All right. So then we're going to go with Kyle's trailer, and we'll go with Andy Samberg.
Oh,
So
wow.
this is
not a lot of movies.
Well, no, there's not.
So obviously, Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. That's got to be in there.
Wait,
Okay.
doesn't he have? There's like it's a thick comedy. It's a racing movie, right? Isn't there, or like a Daredevil movie that he's in? I don't.
Oh,
what's
yeah,
it called? I haven't seen a lot of his movies.
Shoot, I know exactly, with Bill Hader.
Yeah.
Hot Rod.
Is that it? Is it Hot Rod? Yeah. Okay.
Hot
Yeah,
Rod.
I think
So that's
there's
2.
one scene that I like in Hot Rod. Okay, Hot Rod.
Cool beans. Cool beans.
Hot Rod. What was the first one you said?
I will tell you that one of the 4 is a TV,
Pop Star.
One of the 4 is a TV show. I will tell you that.
Oh, okay. So Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, yeah.
Or Saturday Night Live.
I think it'll be Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
And then,
Yeah.
okay, so Hot Rod,
Love that show.
Pop Star, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I don't know what
Brooklyn
else.
Nine-Nine. And then he was in an Adam Sandler movie?
Was he?
Sandler tends to skew these
Was
things. He played Adam Sandler's son in I can't remember the name of that movie. My boy. That's my boy.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a deep cut.
I don't know. I'm tapped out.
A face.
I'm trying to keep poker face.
These are good.
I'm telling you guys are batting better.
Are you talking about That's My Boy? Are you talking about Big Daddy?
No,
okay.
not talking about Big Daddy.
I don't know what That's My Boy.
It was like it was Sandler shows up as like playing like a 60-year-old man or whatever, like that he was the deadbeat dad.
All right.
And now he's back. Like, I'm here to help you with becoming a man.
Right.
And
okay, so you've got Pop Star, and then you said Hot Rod.
Brooklyn
Nine-Nine, and then
That's My Boy. There's no way that's on there.
You guys are at 75% because it's Saturday Night Live. Pop Star, That's My Boy, and Hot Rod.
Oh,
that's great. And we even considered switching.
We did.
You did.
That's great.
You were close. But That's My Boy. I've never
the peanut butter falcon thing threw us off because we thought the most recent.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's My Boy. I can't believe I pulled that out.
Yes. Okay. All right.
I'm both impressed with myself and ashamed.
All right.
Which is, when you see
I'm super impressed with us on that.
Kind of how you walk out.
All right. So Jennifer Hudson, JJ. How are you guys Jennifer Hudson fans?
I like her, but I'm not. Again, I'm not super familiar. So she's got to have Dreamgirls on there.
Dreamgirls.
And then I think what? No,
is there a television show on this?
These are all movies.
Okay,
these are all movies. Wait. There is that a TV show or movie? That's going to give it away, isn't it?
No.
Well, and she is basically is American Idol.
No.
Okay. That's good. She should. American Idol should be on there as her origin.
These are all movies.
She was also in Cats, so I would put Cats on there. Cats, Dreamgirls, and what else? Gosh darn it!
I'll tell you,
she was in one of those 1960s.
She's only got 31 actress credits, so it is a small
31's big, bigger than I would have thought.
Well, yes, but
that's also. Does that include like
episode
Tonight Show?
There's a few things like that in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Dreamgirls.
I don't know. I guess I don't know her filmography as well as I thought I did.
Yeah, I think that's all I can offer.
Okay,
but I'm anxious to hear.
So hit us.
So you got Cats and Dreamgirls. Well, you're. I guess
are those both yeses?
Two, you get the only one is
50%.
Really? No, you just Dreamgirls.
Okay.
Also,
really?
Yes. So the one that threw me off, and I wasn't sure if TV show or movie, was Sex and the City, but it was the Sex and the City movie.
Oh, this movie. Okay.
I didn't know she was in that at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
first one?
The Secret Life. Yes, it was the first one. Then she was also in The Secret Life of Bees.
And she's also in
Sing. I thought you were going to say Pets.
Is she in Sing? Is that what's on there?
No. Spike Lee's Chai Rock.
I don't even know what that movie is. All right.
I don't feel so bad.
Yes.
Cool. Well, we did what we could.
Give you guys,
we need we need to up our Hudson game. Apparently. Put those on your gap list.
Game.
I'm going to throw you one last one. I'll throw you Aaron. I'll throw you Aaron Sorkin. Okay. So I'll tell you, one is TV.
Okay, that's the West Wing.
That's a giveaway. And then the other three, you guys should be able to get.
So I'm not a huge fan. So I'm going to go. I'm going to trust you really to do it because I wasn't even aware of his relation to A Few Good Men, for example, until we on the show. Glad to hear it. And what did you say? That Steve Jobs.
So I'm going to say Steve Jobs.
Okay. I'm
going to say The Social Network.
Oh yes, I knew that one.
And then the third one, Molly's Game, because he directed it too. But then that's not as popular of a movie as some of the ones that he's written, like Moneyball.
He wrote Moneyball. Wow.
He wrote Moneyball.
All right.
Yeah.
I would say Molly's Game for recency, and then you said Steve Jobs, and what was the other one you said? Social Network. I think those are great. Which she won the Oscar West Wing. I think those are a great four. Yeah. Let's go with those.
Okay, so you said West Wing.
West Wing, yes.
And that's correct.
Yes.
And then you said Social Network.
Yes.
And that's correct.
Yes.
And then you said Molly's Game.
Steve Jobs.
You said Molly's Game for recency. And that's correct.
Nice.
And then you said Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
and you should have said A Few Good Men instead.
Oh,
okay.
see, but you brought it up, Kyle. So yeah, exactly. We've done really well today.
Yes.
That's a much better round of IMDb game than we've done before.
I say we've gotten at least one in every.
That's true too.
Yes, and there were some oddities. I mean, again, Jennifer Hudson. I knew that was going to be a stretch. That was going to be a stretch, and then with Shia LaBeouf, having the recency thing sort of skewed that one a little bit. So, all right. All right, so we have to
list time, right?
We have to talk about lists, which was
I like this category.
So
because give me some good stuff.
Because of the Hamilton Film Board, they talked about weird categories that they were going to throw at us, which was revolutionary musicals, miscast historical figures, or Make America Funny Again. And it ended up with miscast historical figures. And I had to go back and listen to the episode to understand what they were kind of getting at. And it started off as the whole idea of the cast of Hamilton being basically, people of color, and the Founding Fathers weren't. And so casting, people who were playing a character that was different. And so I thought, okay, there's a way to do that's not going to get into dealing with real controversial, I
think it's both.
Issues
I took it very literal.
So you took it. Okay. Yeah. There's lots of ways to go with this. So I struggled because I was trying to figure out, and I tried to stick to important historical figures as much as I could, and it didn't work that well for me.
I didn't.
So you didn't. Okay.
My only category was that they were real people.
Yeah. That was hard enough.
Fictional characters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were real historical people.
Okay. Yeah, so who goes first?
So I go first because I had the first trailer. Great. So I am going to go with and it's funny because we were just talking about Aaron Sorkin. I am going with Michael Fassbender, a German man playing Steve Jobs, a man of Syrian descent. Although Steve Jobs' mother was part Swiss and German, so you could sort of make a connection there. But it was one of the oddest casting choices I had ever seen in my life. And nothing against Michael Fassbender, but it was a very odd casting call to be Steve Jobs.
Well, and that's what makes this category kind of difficult because really great acting jobs.
Yes.
How does that figure in for your definition of miscast? But I think it's fair what you did there, especially talking about ancestry.
Yeah, that was the piece where that's where I went with that one. So that was my first.
Gotcha.
Which one?
So, what's the movie again?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. You're right. We got a theme,
which is a great movie. It's a great movie. It's just where I think I'm biased from the Pirates of Silicon Valley, TV movie where Noah Wyle, I think, just did an impeccable Steve Jobs. Yeah. Okay,
Kyle's next.
So Kyle,
I'm up next. Okay, this one, like I said, I'm going to put it out here first, just because I know it's almost guaranteed to be a steal if we all think of the same way. So we're going to go back to 1956.
Okay.
When you set out to make a movie about a person who conquered most of the known world, especially one who came from Mongolia, the first name you need to call would, of course, be John Wayne. And of course, I'm talking about the Conqueror.
That's perfect. I would have never picked that one, so I'm really glad you picked that first. Yeah. Yes, that is perfect for this category, though.
And terrible movie.
Yeah. I have not seen
Howard
that
Hughes
movie.
Directed that.
Oh, really? Okay, that's just one of those. I've seen the pictures of that. I thought I'm not a John Wayne fan, so it's not anything that ever came across my I'm going to watch this. I'm not a completionist. I'm going to see everything that he's been in. But it's one that is like seems like the most egregious of this is not.
If you want to know more, Dana Gould on his podcast has been doing a deep dive on it a little bit too. It's fascinating because they shot on a nuclear testing site.
Oh yes,
and so and from that point, 50 of the crew eventually end up dying of cancer because not only did they shoot there, but when they had to leave, they took all the radioactive dirt with them and brought it to a studio and shot on it again.
No.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Constant
exposure.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. My first one,
JJ.
and I don't know the year, but it's fairly recent, was the it's not. I mean, it's kind of a biography of Bob Dylan. I'm Not There.
Oh,
and he was played by
yeah.
lots of different people in that, but most notably for me, one of the little vignettes was played by Kate Blanchett, playing Bob Dylan.
Right. I've wanted to see this movie because I've heard about it, and it's just, but yeah, they had, I don't know how many different actors playing like different,
it's like
sort of versions
7
of
or
Bob,
5 or something like that. Yeah, it's great. So that's my first one.
Okay.
I've seen just that scene, and I think Kate Blanchett nailed it.
Well, Kate Blanchett can do anything, pretty much. Yeah, that's yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Steve, bring it.
All right, my second one. So if you're going to have something set, it goes to Kyle's pick in the 50s, where you just you're trying to tell epic stories that are international or global or just set in different parts of the world, but you're really just sort of bound by the studio system. So when you're going to cast an important character out of the Old Testament, why would you not cast, Charlton Heston as, Moses, a Hebrew Egyptian man? Because Charlton Heston is nothing but he just seems straight out of the Middle East there, doesn't he? You can have my staff when you pry it out of my cold dead hand.
So that's the 10 Commandments, yes?
That's the 10 Commandments,
Nice.
yes.
Good choice.
Cecil B. DeMille.
Okay.
Yep. All right,
Kyle, you're up.
Good choice. Okay. My next one. This actually was when I listened to the episode and they said this was the first thing that popped into my head.
Okay.
So we're going to go back to the far off year of 1995.
Okay.
So when you're sitting there thinking in the spirit of Hamilton, as everybody's watching Hamilton today, you want to think, okay, we're going to have one of our great statesmen, a man of letters, a well-spoken man, someone who everyone would, as soon as he started talking, everyone would turn and listen. And of course, for that person, you'd want to cast Nick Nolte as Thomas Jefferson in Jefferson in Paris.
Yes,
that's articulate. Is the first adjective that I associate with.
For a more perfect union.
Yes. Oh, yeah. He just seems like the most intelligent, articulate American ever, Nick Nolte.
For those of you who have a problem with Daveed Diggs, take a look at this movie.
Oh, geez.
I don't have a problem with Daveed Diggs.
No.
No one should have a problem with Daveed
for
Diggs.
whatever he plays in Hamilton. My number two, and since you guys both did yours, I'm going to say I looked this one up as I was listening to you from 2003. No, number one, it's The Last Samurai, and it's if you watch The Last Samurai and you're a fan of Ed Zwick and Marshall Herskovitz, which I am, going back to Glory. Yeah. The unfortunate thing about The Last Samurai is that it's a lot like Glory. And if you look at it, the stories are very, very similar, which I kind of like them both. But the key thing about Tom Cruise playing Captain Algren, I think, in The Last Samurai is that story, while based on a true story, is about a Frenchman who it didn't have anything to do with Americans going and teaching the samurai how to do anything. And so unfortunately, it's very much romanticized into this American exceptionalism, teaching the Japanese how to do things. And so it's unfortunate, but it's not an Algren. I think it's like Brunei or something. It's a great story, but it's miscast. So Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
That came from a long period where they would find these amazing stories from history and then go, but how can we make it be about a white dude?
A white American dude. Let's get
the white,
so bad.
The white savior.
Right.
Yes.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So for
number three,
my final pick, I was inspired. And Pete, as you're listening, you will appreciate this, I'm hoping, because now I'm straying from, I guess, actual historical people, but to me, like legends and folk tales, some of these characters are so much as a part of storytelling and culture that it's almost as if they were alive. And so I'm treading into somewhat fictional territory here, but I just could not resist the fact that when you are casting a character named Don Diego de la Vega, that clearly you would think, I think we'll get Anthony Hopkins for this role in The Mask of Zorro. And I just, as you know, it came to mind, particularly with last week's list and Pete talking about
back-to-back miscastings.
Yes, exactly. It's because apparently Anthony Hopkins is a racial chameleon. You can cast him in anything and he will play it.
No.
So that is my final
Anthony Hopkins and Vin Diesel.
Yes.
They can play any of
Right.
Yes, exactly. All right. Kyle.
So my last one is from a classic movie. So there's a lot of these movies that we sort of put on the pedestal. They had all these awards and they're classics of cinemas, and there's framed posters in every fancy cinema. But if you dig deep, there's some problematic stuff you can get into. And so the one I'm talking about is actually from one of our favorite actors, Sir Alec Guinness, playing Prince Faisal in Lawrence of Arabia, who is not Iranian or Middle Eastern at all.
No. Yes.
Yeah. This actually led me down a pretty deep hole about Hollywood whitewashing.
Oh, there's
some horrible things out there.
Yes, there are. Yes, indeed they are. I mean, it's a great film. It is a great film, but yes, it stands out more and more. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Just that it's got that Breakfast at Tiffany's thing where you gotta go.
Geez. Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean,
Gone with the Wind. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for my last one,
most have Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I'm happy to say that we had no steals that I can tell.
Okay.
Nothing on my list was picked.
True.
I'm struggling with which one to put up for my last one here. I've got a bunch of different ones. I was listing Dances with Wolves. I was going to, but that's actually fiction, so I don't want to do it. It's based on history, but it's a fiction. I was going to go with The Producers, talking about sort of a meta thing of casting Hitler in a non-Hitler-esque kind of thing, but I decided not to. So what I settled on,
those aren't the fan letters we want here.
What I settled on here was Young Guns, and looking at Young Guns. So there have actually been some things written about Young Guns saying that it was one of the most true stories in recounting what Billy the Kid went through. That there actually was a John Tunstall, which is this person in the story that takes all these young guys in. They're the regulators, right? Young guys in and teaches them how to get out there, and take over everything. The difference is that John Tunstall in the movie is played like this venerable old fatherly figure, but actually in real life, John Tunstall was like the same age as these guys. He was more like gathering. I mean, at most he was 5 years older than Billy, which Billy is again the kid. So it's this kind of thing where they played out the dynamic for the film to have this sort of fatherly person teach them, and then he becomes the martyr and these kind of things. But in reality, the real story was that these guys were getting together to sort of take care of things in a gang-like way. And again, it's kind of like romanticizing the Old West here a little bit. But it made for a great story. I'm a big fan of Young Guns and Young Guns 2. So that's my third for our miscast.
All right.
And then my other meta one was I was going to say Wyatt Earp, because Wyatt Earp and Tombstone came out in the same year, and you got to pick one, right? Which one is better in terms of casting? And Tombstone's the right one.
Yes.
Anyone other than who they cast for all of the people in Tombstone is miscast, in my opinion, but whatever.
All right. So what were some of your backups then? Because it sounds like
those
you guys
had
backups. Some. Those were your backups.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. Do you have other backups, or?
I only have one, and it's really stretching it because I had it on my list, and it's ridiculous. But then I thought, oh well, actually, the story explains and justifies the miscasting of Ossie Davis as JFK in Bubba Hotep, because the story is he's JFK, and after the assassination, they basically they turned him into a black man to hide and shuffle them off. So it's not actually miscasting, but the fact of the matter that Ossie Davis is playing JFK in Bubba Hotep.
The backups always get a little squirrely.
We get to mention Bubba Hotep.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Let's see. I had two other ones. One was in Beyond the Sea. Kevin Spacey playing Bobby Darin. I think he was almost 50 when he did the role. And he was playing Bobby Darin at 20.
Right. Yes.
love the hubris of like you're writing and directing this movie and going, you know who'd be perfect for the lead? Me.
He always likes to play young roles. So
yes, he does.
That was a joke.
Kevin Spacey's many
that
faults.
was meant to be an off-color joke.
Yeah. And then my last one was from Exodus: Gods and Kings. Everyone.
Oh yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The entire principal cast.
Right. Well, yeah, because in 1950, whatever, Cecil B. DeMille doing Ten Commandments, that's what he's dealing with. But in more contemporary times, there's no reason to cast a film like that at all. Yeah, exactly. All right.
Okay.
So we have free reign because it's going to be a while before we get to, they pick up after summer hiatus. So I was thinking about, if there are themes from anything we've talked about in the show. I've been making notes about things that have come up during the show, because we could do movies that have scenes in a drive-in.
Love it.
Because we did talk about drive-ins.
Love that. That's a good one. Do that one.
Okay. It is also summer, so I don't know if there's anything that comes to mind when you think about summer movies, what you might think might be a category that might be interesting for a list, since we are in the middle of summer.
A bunch of like teen comedies that take place in the summer are coming up. So like Summer Break, kind of like a
okay. Summer Break.
What else you got, Steve?
Okay. What else have I got? That's
what would be the recurring themes?
Yeah,
racism and Aaron Sorkin. The two are not connected.
Racist Aaron Sorkin movies. Go.
You could do something about something about quarantine, right? Have we done anything about quarantine yet? I don't think so. So we could do something about like being
locked in somewhere, trapped in. Oh, single location movies, like.
Oh, okay, single location. So it doesn't. Yeah, because people are locked in.
How about films where you're forced to watch something?
Ooh.
Where people are made to have to watch something.
Okay, I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, no, that
okay. Got it. Just thought about like 3 or 4 disturbing things that came to mind. So thanks for that.
Well, it's okay. Well, he knows he doesn't have to do this because he wouldn't be able to build that list himself. He's thinking, let's see, everything from this past year. It was on Trailer Rewind that Steve made me watch. All the times we did horror movies on the film board, things that made me watch.
Yes, made me watch.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So we've got. Drive-in movie.
Love it.
And we've got Summer Break. And we've got people being forced to watch something.
Love it.
Okay.
Those are good ones.
That's good. And we don't have to, I don't have to deal with this. And I don't think either of you do either.
No.
Okay. This is fun. We get some diversity off of this, because I think instead of, sometimes what happens is we get a series of movies and it's like we're treading over the same topic and trying to rethink it. And this just gave us,
these are all different.
This will be really interesting to see what the members on Discord come up with. Yes. Exactly. All right. So if you want to vote in next week's challenge, it's simple. You head over to the Show Talk channel and the Next Reel Discord community, and you can lend your vote to the chaos that is list picking and movie sabotage each week. If I told you guys I used to sabotage the votes, yes, I did. The old poll system used to allow you to vote more than once, and I would split my votes. And then if it was close, I'd say, well, I'll just tip the scales this way. No longer possible with our new polling system. So how do you get access to that Show Talk channel? Just head over to the patreon.com/the Next Reel and become a supporter of the Next Reel family of podcasts for just $5 a month. You're not even going out to see movies anymore. You've got $5 in your pocket. You can become a concessionaire supporter and get access to the show live streams as we record, early access to shows in your very own personal podcast feed, and access to the super secret member channels in the Next Reel Discord. Super secret, yes. And if you need a mask, you can head over to thenextreel.com/merch to check out our TeePublic store, and we've got masks out there. You can be bold enough to order your Patient Zero, biohazard looking mask if you want to, but we've got all kinds of merch over there as well. And we thank all of you for supporting us and supporting our doctors and nurses, because part of the funds from purchasing a mask will go to support the frontline healthcare workers through direct relief.
Thank you. And the Marvel Movie Minute ones have our pictures on it, so you can put my face on your face.
That's weird.
Face on face. That's
Face on face.
putting his face on your face.
That's weird.
So
and you can take my face.
off.
Very nice.
Face off. Excellent. All right, where are you guys in your Marvel Movie Minute? Where are we coming up to?
Let's see. We have finally hit New York, baby. The city's so nice that I've heard they've named it twice. So the Bruce and Betty are visiting with the good doctor. Then in these upcoming episodes coming this week, you're going to get to hear we get a deep dive into psychological horror. I get to hear me bust out my Crypt Keeper impression.
Excellent.
Worth it. Worth the price of admission.
And yeah.
Yes. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So
yes.
it's gonna be
All right. So everybody check out your feeds for the Hamilton Film Board that'll be dropping and all the fun things coming to you for Marvel Movie Minute.
All right.
Well, guys, it's been a pleasure.
See you later.
Enjoy your 4th of July, everybody.
Hondo.